Life Love Lessons Series 2 is designed with men in mind. Yes, men. Brothers, listen. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You have uncovered capacity for abundant living and loving. Hi, I am Teacher Hazel. Teaching is my ministry. I invite you, I challenge you to listen and learn some secrets that I will share with you in Life Love Lessons with Men in Mind. Note, living abundantly is your legacy.
Welcome to Life Love Lessons Series 2 with Men in Mind. And we are on Lesson 4 entitled All, None, or Some. So greetings and hello. I am Reverend Dr. Teacher Hazel Ann Gibbs DePisa, better known as Teacher Hazel. My intention for this lesson, as usual, is to encourage you to love the life you live and live a life you love, and to empower you to access the more abundant life that Christ came to give us by revealing and unraveling some of life love lessons. So, as usual, we begin with an acknowledgement of our Creator and Sustainer. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God sustains us. Wherever we are, God is. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I thank God for you, and I thank you for being here with me. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Life Love Lessons with Men in Mind, Lesson 4. Welcome each and every one of you. And women, just as the men were welcome to share Series 1 for Women of Faith, you are welcome to participate in Series 2 with Men in Mind. After all, we are in this life together. Let me say a special welcome to those who have joined us for the first time, and encourage you, if this is your first time, to check out Lessons 1, 2, and 3. They are all available in Abundant Life Mastery at the Call on YouTube. Let us now do a brief review before moving forward. And I asked this question in Lessons 1, 2, and 3, and I'm asking it again. Brother, do you know that you are a magnificent spiritual being with untapped potential and unexplored capacity for abundant living and loving? Are you aware of that? And I repeat my statement, brother, if you know your worth, if you know who you are, You won't need a gun or a blade or force to prove you have worth. Living abundantly is your legacy. Loving life is your destiny. Understand that. Brothers, let me find out, do you agree that you are fearfully and wonderfully made? That you are a spiritual being currently sojourning in physical form, having a human experience? You see, once you understand that you are a spiritual being having a human experience and not a human being with a spirit, it changes the whole modus operandi, because your spiritual self is your real self. And a few little foundation notes from the lessons before. If all you see is what you see, then you do not see all there is to see. And if you're hearing that for the first time, again, I encourage you to go back to the lessons that went before. Your thoughts create your life. Yes, your thoughts create your life. So if you change the way you see things, the things you see change. That's another quote from Wayne Dyer. Because your thoughts create your life. Your perception is your reality. How you perceive the world, that is what is reality for you. You choose your life story. You may either choose it by default, or you may choose it by design. If you just go along without controlling your thoughts, then it is formed by default. But if you choose to manage your mind and your mind movies, then it will be by design. So, to be or not to be, it's up to you. You are responsible for what and who you are. How you think directly affects how you live. And remember, everything is created twice. And that's the importance of your thought, because it has to be created first in the thought realm, the spirit realm. Remember, you're a spiritual being. And then in the physical realm, which we call reality. Everything is created twice. So even the computer or phone that you are looking at, that was first created in somebody's thoughts, and they brought it to fruition. It became manifest in the physical. But if they had never thought of it, it would never have been made. That is the power of your thought. And we would also have learned where your attention goes, your energy flows. Yes? And remember, you cannot not think. You're always thinking. And that's why you need to choose what you think. And we would have done the law of attraction, and we would have learned that vibrations attract like vibrations. So we know that our thoughts create our world. And we would have looked at Paul's admonition in Philippians. Whatsoever, yes, whatsoever things are lovely, etc., think on these things. And that's because he knew that our thoughts create our world. And of course, among the gifts God gave us is freedom of choice. So we choose our life. Understand that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the truth is, you have absolutely unlimited creative capacities. So, men, brothers, fathers, uncles, sons. Lesson 4. All or none or some. Are you all that you want to be? Are you none of what you want to be? Or are you some of what you want to be? And whichever one is the answer, you need to know why. Do you have all that you want? Or none? Or some? Can you be all that you want to be? Can you? Or none? Or some? Will you give all? Or are you only willing to give some? Or perhaps even none? Christ gave all. What about you? Do you want all? Or do you want none? Or do you want some? And you may think that that is an unfair question, but it isn't. Very often when people are asked, what do you want? They can't really see. What do you dream of? What do you long for? What is the ideal that you want to live? So do you want all or none or some? Now we learned about the law of attraction and the law of deliberate creation in the earlier lessons. Today we want to open up the law of vibration, and you'll see how it all comes together. The law of vibration states that everything in the universe vibrates at a specific frequency. And that is basic physics. All right? You get into your science class. The law of vibration states that everything in the universe vibrates at a specific frequency. So the answer is yes. Everything is energy. The whole universe is energy. Life is energy. Thoughts are energy. And we looked at that before. And energy vibrates. The universe vibrates. Life vibrates. Thoughts vibrate. Everything vibrates because everything is energy. And we know that energy moves in waves. It's not a linear setting. And the speed or rate at which energy or anything vibrates is called its frequency. And we looked at the frequency measures in terms of our thoughts in an earlier lesson. Because thoughts, like sound and light, are measurable units of energy. Yes? So, energy. When we say you are a spiritual being, because in truth and in fact, you are energy. And you remember we spoke about the fact that everything is created twice. In the thought world, in the world of energy, in the spiritual world, and then it manifests in the physical. And the differences really are caused by the rate of vibration. That's where it is. The rate of vibration is what makes a difference. And anything that you vibrate at the same level with, on the same frequency with, you attract to yourself. So we know that light, life, sound, all of that is energy, right? And it moves in waves. And we look at the energy frequencies and we know that there is a vibrational scale that will measure the energy frequencies. And so we can speak about the vibration of energy, the vibration of life. And some people are quite adept at recognizing and sensing vibration. After all, we are spiritual beings and we do have some super senses. Remember that? Yes, we have 6 super senses because we're not just physical beings. Okay? So, all, none, or some. Are you all spirit? None? No spirit? Or are you some spirit? Originally, you were all spirit. But when you began this journey, you added the physical, the human. So you are now some spirit. But remember that the spirit is the more important part. So are you all human? You know, we have a way we used to say, I'm only human. Whenever we do things wrong, I'm only human. What do you expect? I'm only human. That excuse does not hold anymore because you are not only human. You are not all human. So your answer again is some. You are some human and some spirit. Are you just physical senses? We know we have the 5 physical senses. But is that all? Are those all the senses that you have? No, those are not all the senses that you have. You also have spiritual senses. And we went through the 6 spiritual or super senses. sometimes referred to as mental faculties, right? Imagination and memory and perception, intuition, reason and will. We went through all of them, right? So you are a spiritual being having a human experience, existing in the physical. Therefore, you have physical senses to deal with the physical world. And because you're a spiritual being, you also have spiritual senses to deal with your spiritual aspect of your life. And men, if you go through life not acknowledging the spiritual, you're shortchanging yourself. You're not only human, you're not just physical. We put so much store on the human aspect of life and on the physical senses. So some people will tell you, oh gosh, if I go blind and I can't see, I'd rather dead. But that's just one physical sense. You have 5. And then you have 6 spiritual senses. So if you lose one sense, you want to die for that? So all the rest doesn't matter? Understand the value. And don't get too caught up in the macho thing, the physical. Brawn versus brain. Brain. Get into the mind, the thoughts, the spiritual aspect of your being. And now I want to tickle your mind a bit. You'll notice that there's a cross. The vertical part of the cross is called the infinite spiritual, right? Infinite spiritual. And you'll notice that the vertical part of the cross goes off the page. It doesn't end because spirit doesn't end. On the horizontal line, you notice finite, physical. But notice there is a beginning and there is an end. There is birth and there is death, an entrance and a departure. And there's a time of beginning and a time of ending. That's what the clock signifies. But if you look on the cross, in the center, where the horizontal meets the vertical, you'll notice it's called now. Because you are now both physical and spiritual. And what that says is that you have access to the infinite. You have access to the divine. We say that I can do all things through Christ who lives in me. Yes, he lives in you. The Spirit of God lives in you because you are spiritual. You were made in the image of a spiritual God. God is a spirit. And when you want to converse with him, it has to be spiritual. Spirit speaking to spirit. So the spiritual aspect is never ending. And not only is it never ending, it is unlimited. You know, we say with God all things are possible, right? So the divine, all things are possible. And if we have access to the divine because of that intersection of spirit and flesh, then we have access to all possible things. But we have to make the connection. We have to be aware, because it's like having a lot of money in the bank. Somebody left a whole set of money in the bank for you. It's on your name. You can go and take it out and use it whenever you want. But if you're not aware of it, you can't make use of it. And this is where the lessons come. Because we have been living without being told that we are spiritual beings. We've been taught a lie that we are human beings and we have a spirit. No, we are spiritual beings and we have a body. The spirit is using the body for this journey. This journey has a beginning, this journey has an end. And therefore, the more important aspect of our life is the spiritual aspect. So to my brothers, I want you to understand that it's not just about the physical. It's not just about the physical strength. That's not where the power really lies. It's in the spiritual. It's in that vertical, that access to the divine. And you'll recall we spoke about intuition, which is the whisper of the soul, that still small voice, which is divine, making connection with you, giving you guidance. But you have to be still and you have to be quiet and you have to listen. You have to be aware. Too often we get guidance and we either don't hear it because we're making too much noise, we're taking on everything else, or we didn't listen, or sometimes we hear it and then we ignore it and we say, what was that? And we dismiss it. And then when the situation faces us, we say, oh gosh, I didn't know that. Something to tell me that something is the spirit, divinity speaking to you. Learn to listen to that still small voice within you. Be aware that you are a spiritual being. Put your focus on that aspect of your life. Don't be too caught up in the physical, which is only for a time. It has a beginning and it has an ending. There is birth and there is death. It does not go on forever. But the spirit lives on forever. Because energy is never lost. Energy will change shape and change form, but it doesn't die. So we need to understand that life is more than the physical, more than the material things, more than the material achievement, more than the strength that we can display. Life is much more than that. So let's make some links to connect to the divine spirit. Raymond Hollowell says, he writes in his book, Working with the Law, we have the power, for the universal power of mind is endowed within each and every one of us. Now, we are not taught that we have power. Our mantra is always, I can. I can't do this and I can't do that. And you can't do that. Nobody never do that before. You can't be a doctor. We have no doctors in the family. You can't get rich. We from a poor family. And we live with this perception of life, not understanding that we are spiritual beings with access to all power. So we have the power. And if you understand that, my brothers, you don't have to fight to prove that you have power. You don't have to kill to prove that you have power. You don't have to get angry and destructive and violent to prove that you have power. Because you have access to power. You have power. It dwells within you. You just have to tap into it. And James McNeil, one of my coaching teachers, says, there is a knowing that transcends learning. And that is when the intuition kicks in. Because you see, the body gets fed from the physical world, information through the physical senses. But then remember, the soul gets fed from the body, but also from the spirit. So the soul represents the mind, the intellect, the awareness, the thinking. But it connects with the spirit. And the spirit connects with the divine. So the body serves the soul serves the spirit serves God. And that knowing is not something that you read in a book and learn. That knowing, that intuition, transcends learning because it's more than the physical. It is from the spiritual aspect of you. Mary Morrissey, one of my coaching teachers as well, instructs, do what you can with what you have, from where you are, knowing that you have more than you think. You always have more than you think. Because remember, you have your divine connection. And once you tap into it, what you think you can't do, you can do. Henry Ford says, if you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're right. Because it's the thought. If you can't think it, you can't conceive it, you can't do it. You can't achieve it. You always have more than you think. And you would have had lots of examples of that in your life where you're doing something, whether it's something strenuous, whether it's something brilliant, and you tell yourself, but I can't go anymore. And then when you get through, you say, but I didn't even know I could do all of that. Because you began to tap in to the divine source. And therefore you were able to do much more than you think you can do. And Paul admonishes us in 2 Timothy, God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So you see the divine connection. He didn't give us a spirit of fear because we know that fear is false evidence appearing real. It only appears real. It isn't real. He gave us a spirit of power, spirit of love, spirit of a sound mind. And we know that when we did the vibrational scale, that love is way up at the top of the scale. After all, love is what makes the world go round. Love is what brought Christ down on the cross. It's love. And when we live from the vibration of love, life has a different course. So let's just explore this idea of that connection with the divine in terms of love. Nelson Mandela. We know about Nelson Mandela. A man who was able to get on the vibrational frequency of loving and forgiving. In an interview, he said, the young man who was jailed could not be president. He said, I had to learn to climb the slope of thought. He had to become the I am of the power that is breathing him and let go of the I am of the ego and the personality. And he recalls that as he walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to his freedom, because he would have already climbed the slope of thought to get to that point. To stay in jail for 25 years and still be sane and still be bright enough to be president, it is because of the vibrational frequency that he was on. When he went in, with all the hate and the anger and the guilt and the shame, he was operating at the lower vibrations, the negative vibrations, lower down on the frequency scale. But it came to him while he was in prison that this is not making sense, because it seems that I have fought for nothing. I'm not going to get out of jail. The party will never end. And then it dawned on him that he needed to shift his vibration from the guilt and the shame and the anger and the hatred to a positive level of courage and reason and peace and love. You see, there is the I am of power that God gave us. Power and love and of a sound mind. But then there's also the I am of the ego and the personality, which is the lower level of reasoning. When we looked at reason, we said that there are two levels of reasoning. And because of our training, because of our education, because of our culture, we tend to function at the lower level in the I am of ego and personality, where there is anger and guilt and shame and hatred, even self-hate. But we have to move out of that range and get into the upper range. And brothers, you are at a particular disadvantage because, as we would have spoken in lessons before, you were made of snips and snails and puppy dog's tails. So you have no worth, or so you think, because that's what you were taught. You have no heart because you can't cry and you can't feel sad and you can't let people know. All you have to do is to be angry and to fight and to show strength. And we have to learn life's love lessons. That love is stronger than hate. That the power inside is greater than the power of the physical. The spiritual power is greater. And so Nelson Mandela learned to climb the slope of thought, learned to shift from the lower vibrational frequency to the higher vibrational frequency, to live in loving and forgiving. And so when he's walking out of the prison, he says, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. So even though he would have grown to the level as he was walking out, he had to remind himself, don't bring any of the hatred and the bitterness with you. Leave it behind. Because if you walk with it, you're walking with the prison. You're going to be still in prison. And our men are living in prison because of the bitterness, the anger, and the hatred. Because they were taught that men can't be gentle and soft and cry and smile. And you see, even though we're learning other things, remember that was put there first and it's settled in the subconscious. So that the reflex response is anger and bitterness, hatred, and physical strength. Life, love lessons tell us that functioning at the level of love and forgiveness and gratitude is where the real power is. Functioning where we use our 6 mental faculties, our 6 super senses, our 6 spiritual senses. Moving from the I am of the ego and the personality to the I am of the power that is breathing you. Because you know we don't breathe ourselves. We can't breathe ourselves. It is God who is breathing us, the divine, the infinite. And that is the I am that we want to be all of. Because when we can focus there, we can do like Christ and give all, love all, function at the higher vibration, not the lower vibration. So love forgiveness, and gratitude. Because gratitude is the attitude of altitude, where love resides and where forgiveness dwells. So are you going to be all love? It is possible, and it works. It is possible, and it works, my brothers, to be all love. And so this brings us to the end of lesson 4, and we go in now to our questions and discussions. So you can place your questions or comments in the chat, and we will deal with them. Feel free. So we've been processing some ideas on thoughts and thinking and who we really are, what we really are all about, what this life is all about. And next week when we come back for lesson 5, we're going to be looking at being the me. Which me are you going to be? We're going to be exploring being the me. No questions or comments coming in? Feel free to ask. Just put it in the chat and I will answer. So I've tried to keep the presentation within the time frame of the 40 to 45 minutes so that you have time for your questions and answers, for discussion, for comments. So I'm waiting. Do I have to make a countdown? I'm sure there are some ideas that would have been new to you, like everything is created twice. You may not have thought of that before, because there's nothing that is physical that was not first in the spirit realm, in the thought realm. It cannot manifest in the physical if it was not in the spiritual. Because even we as humans, it is the spirit that fitted itself into a body by changing the frequency of the vibration in order to manifest a body that we can live in order to have this human experience. But we were first spirit, and we will again be spirit. And of course, the whole question of vibration and attraction, because vibrations attract like vibrations. We would have learned opposites attract. But that only applies in the question of polarity in the physical physics. In the realm of the vibration of life, opposites don't attract. Vibrations attract like vibrations. So if you're vibrating at the level of love, you're going to attract love. If you're vibrating at the level of anger, you're going to attract anger. If you're vibrating at the level of hatred, you're going to attract hatred. If your thoughts are on abundance, you're going to attract abundance, because where your thoughts go and your focus goes, that's where your energy goes. So that wherever you focus, that's where your energy is going to be flowing. And it will attract like energy to itself. And with all the quantum physics that is being exposed now, scientists are realizing that they had quite a few things wrong, simply because they didn't consider the spiritual aspect of life. They thought that everything had to be able to be dissected in the physical to be real. They didn't even know that the physical is not the real real. The real real is the spiritual. But they're learning. They're learning. And so if we have no questions or comments, let me say thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed being with me as much as I have enjoyed being with you, and that you have learned some of life love lessons. I look forward to sharing with you again next week, when our lesson will be entitled Being the Me. And as you go, I implore you, make every effort to love yourself. It's the only self you have. Love your life. It's the only life you know. Live abundantly. It's your birthright. Love God. It's your purpose for being here. So thank you. God bless you. Love, joy, and peace. Sweet dreams. Blessings. And since there are no last-minute questions or comments, let me say bye-bye. Look forward to being with you again. Same time, same place, next Thursday. God bless.